Before we start today's show, we wanted to talk briefly to all of our wonderful listeners. We are quickly coming up on our 100th episode, and we want to celebrate that with all of you. To do that, we would like to hand over the microphone to you. We'd love to hear about your favorite episodes, why you keep listening to us, when you shouted at us the most, what you think we should do in the next 100 episodes, basically all of your thoughts about Pop Culturally Deprived.
Like Mandy says, we really want to hear you during the episode, so there's a couple of ways you can do that. We have a SpeakPipe account, so you can call and leave a short message. That's speakpipe.com/eloquentgushing. And you can also record yourself by any means, a phone, a mic, podcasting equipment, talking through two cans tied by a string, and you can email them to us, podcast@eloquentgushing.com.
So Matthew, what are you hoping to hear from folks?
I actually really want to hear where people have discussed or recommended our episodes to other people. Like, where has Pop Culturally Deprived come up in conversation? Somehow, like, it always seems to come up for me, like, oh yeah, we had this conversation on the podcast about that film, and here's a thing that we said. And I mean, I talk about films a lot, so that's probably fair. Right. How about you?
Well, mostly, I want to hear the things that I already mentioned. I want to know what folks loved. I really want to know when people argue with us, especially if they're like listening to us in the car and they're just shouting at us because they either agree or disagree with us. I love to hear about those things. Or even things that you've just simply thought that we've gotten wrong. Have I hated a movie that you just absolutely loved and you need to tell me about it? Tell us that. Tell us why you listen. You do have some time before we record our 100th episode, but this is our formal request to hear from you and be a part of this milestone.
If you don't want to speak, you can drop us something in text form that we'll read out, but I love having other people's voices on here, so it would be amazing to hear from you. The deadline to be included is November the 28th of 2018, in case you're hearing this in the future, and we've already released like 300 episodes.
Yes. So you have plenty of time. So there is no excuse for not getting us something. So now we will get on with this week's show. Welcome to the show. This is episode number 88 of Pop Culturally Deprived, and today we're going to be talking about mystery men on your Forks and Flatulence podcast. I'm Andy Kay.
And I'm Matthew Vose.
And today we are joined by Jan Moffat, host of the podcast Way Too Seriously and Clockworks, a Legion podcast. Jan, welcome to the show.
Hey guys! I am so excited to join you. I'm a big fan of PC Deprived, and I can't wait to weigh in with my opinions.
Now, I think I need to start off by apologising to our other guests, but Jan, you are now my favourite guest ever.
Thanks.
I had not even put Mystery Men on the list. I had been so convinced I was the only person in the world who liked this film. So you actually suggested it, which is just the most amazing thing without prompting.
Yeah.
How come Mystery Men? How come someone else likes this film?
I don't know. I saw it back like when it first came out in 99. I think like I went with my sister or something and loved it. And then Paul and I saw it together when we got together. And for some reason, it's just one of these movies that we quote all the time, that we own and we watch repeatedly. And just something about it strikes me as so funny that I was like, I bet you Mandy hasn't watched this. There's no way. It's this weird off-the-wall movie.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's even like counts as like pop culturally deprived because it's such a movie that barely anyone has watched or heard of. But it's a fun one.
I did read somewhere that it has kind of gotten cult status. Yeah. I don't know if that's true, but we'll pretend it is for the show.
Like, I wonder how many people will have watched it that listen to your podcast.
A few. Yeah. We had a few folks on Twitter who said they loved it. They didn't give me anything else to talk about, but they said they loved it. So,
well, that's good.
It's crazy. So, no, I was really excited when I saw this, and I think I'll get into it a bit when we get into this. But were you aware of the film before you saw it? Did you just go and like, oh, there's that film, let's go and see that?
Yeah, I think like my brother-in-law saw it in theaters and was like a huge fan. So then I went again with them.
Okay.
So it was like, I was not into superheroes. I'm a lot like Mandy. Like, I didn't get into that stuff until later in my life. And so, for some reason, this just kind of hit me at that moment. And then watching it again with Paul, then we got into quoting it.
Okay.
So it was like once I started actually watching it with my husband, then it became more of a thing.
Right. Okay. We shall dig into the quoting later, because,
yes, absolutely.
Eminently quotable. Mandy, how come you've never seen this? Small of all small minor films?
Clearly, because I never heard of it. I mean, I wasn't into superheroes in 1999, so I just did not know this movie existed at all. And even since I've started watching superhero movies, I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about this one.
No.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not one of those.
It should be.
And
I know.
even for the era, like, I think 99 was when the first X-Men film came out. Like, this was the start of the modern superhero renaissance. So, it is a film out of time.
Yeah, I was going to say, people weren't ready for this then.
No, they really weren't.
Okay. Obviously, I don't need to give much production info because everyone's listening and going, oh, yeah, that film. Mystery Men is a 1999 superhero comedy film. It was directed by Kinka Usher and stars everyone ever. Ben Stiller, Hank Azaria, William H. Macy, Jeffrey Rush, Tom Waits, Eddie Izzard, Greg Kinnear, Janine Garofalo, Kel Mitchell. You just keep naming them. The film was based on a team in a comic book called Flaming Carrot Comics. It had a budget of $68 million. Mystery Men is considered a box office disaster. It earned back just under half of its budget at cinemas. 3 weeks later, though, The 13th Warrior would be released and was an even bigger bomb, so it takes some of the heat off. This was like one of the best years ever for films, but also one of the worst. Mystery Men had mixed critical responses. Most people noted that there were good moments and elements to the film, but it was largely unstructured and lacking a theme. And back when movies had major singles released alongside them, Wild Wild West was also released that summer. Mystery Men has the greatest song ever associated with it, All Star by Smash Mouth.
Wait. That's a bit of editorializing.
Which I unapologetically love. It's a great song.
It is a great song, and I just assumed they used it in the soundtrack. I didn't realize it was, like, they came out together.
Yeah, it's for this film, effectively. The video for All Star has him lifting a school bus off some people.
Oh, no way.
I need to go watch that video. That's amazing. Okay.
And actually, I've not watched it to check. And it's possible my head has created that link, but I'm sure it's in there.
Okay. All right. I'm going to have to go check that out after we finish today. All right. Well, I think it sounds like most people probably don't know what this movie is about because nobody has ever seen it. So it's about a world where superheroes exist. And when Captain Amazing goes missing, the quote-unquote other guys band together to try and rescue him from supervillain Casanova Frankenstein. It's a great blend of superhero and underdog.
I think that's a pretty good description of it.
Okay, how was everyone able to watch the film? Jan?
I own the DVD, of course.
Nice.
Which I'd kind of forgotten that I owned it. I had to flip through my little CD wallet thing. But I also saw that it's available for rent on YouTube, which I wanted to watch it on my phone, so I did rent it on YouTube at one point.
Nice. Mandy?
I was very pleasantly surprised to find out that Joseph owns this one, so I did not have to rent it, but it is available to rent on Amazon as well.
Had he seen this before?
Yes.
Did he make any comments? Do we want to know?
He chose to play Xbox while I was watching it, so he didn't.
Okay.
He watched me watch it, but didn't really watch it with me, so we didn't really talk about it.
Okay. I own this on DVD. It is available for rent on Amazon over here too. But I have the DVD, so, you know.
I think this might be the first time where we've all owned it in some form. Interesting. And it happens to be a movie that nobody's ever heard of. So
yeah.
Fantastic. How weird.
Okay, so there's a lot of people in this. Mandy, what's your experience of all the actors ever?
Okay. I'm going to narrow this down and not say everything that I've
Yeah.
seen all of these people ever in. I'm just going to
Mhm.
tell you kind of where I know them from. So William H. Macy, I absolutely adore. I fell in love with him in Mr. Holland's Opus. And Pleasantville is the other one that I'm most familiar with by memory. Ben Stiller, Dodgeball, and Night at the Museum. I have seen other stuff, but those are the two that when I think of Ben Stiller, those are the things I think of.
Okay.
Hank Azaria, because he moved to Minsk on Friends.
Yeah, fair.
I mean, I know he does the characters on The Simpsons, but I don't watch The Simpsons, so that's not my association. Claire Forlani is Anthony Hopkins' daughter in Meet Joe Black. Janine Garofalo, I know her best from Romy and Michelle's high school reunion, and also just general awareness that she's a comedian.
Mhm.
Greg Kinnear, I've seen very few of his movies, but I have always had this massive crush on him. I don't know why. And Jan, you reminded me that I did not talk about Jeffrey Rush there. He is a pirate.
Yeah. I think he was more of like a serious actor
Yeah.
before this, and then after this he went on to be in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
So it was like this was his first weird off the wall villain character.
Yeah, it was weird because I knew that he was Barbossa in Pirates, but when I first saw him, he was kind of unrecognizable in this movie.
Mhm.
But the more I watched, the more I started to see like facial expressions and stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, I can see pirate there.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's shockingly enough, all of those people I have at least seen in something.
Nice. Okay. What were your expectations of this? And do you have experience of superhero films? I think we know you do, but spoofs of the genre?
I don't think I was aware that this was like a parody / spoof. I didn't really know what it was because I did not read the synopsis before I started it.
Nice.
Which is why if you look at my thought stock, my very first thought is, oh my gosh, I'm in for a ride.
Mhm.
So I was expecting some kind of like random superhero thing. I figured if it was called Mystery Men, it wasn't anything I'd ever heard of. Are there other superhero spoofs besides this one?
Other than the typical, Wayans Brothers type films, I'm not
Okay.
sure. Like, there's Lego Batman, and there's one called Captain Underpants that I've not seen that may or may not be. most-
yeah,
The most recent Teen Titans movie that just came out,
Mm.
like the Teen Titans Go, was kind of a spoof too.
Yeah, that whole series is.
Yeah,
Okay,
but that's
yeah.
all cartoons.
I've seen none of those, so I think when I think of spoofs, I think of things like Galaxy Quest and Spaceballs,
Yeah,
which
Mhm.
are great, but not superhero.
I think Galaxy Quest might be the best comparison for this. It's doing the genre and thing as its own plot, whilst also kind of playing with the like concepts of it a bit.
Right.
Hmm.
Right.
yeah, I think it's a good comparison.
Okay. Mystery Men, having heard of it and watched it and understood it, and now knowing about it, did you enjoy it?
I absolutely did.
Yay!
And I will
so
absolutely
happy
watch
you
it
liked
again.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
Do you think it would reward a second viewing?
Yes. I do. Mostly, I mean, just if for no other reason that it's ridiculously fun, wonderful to quote, has some great singers, and it just kind of it turns its own tropes on its head, and I think it's great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Jan, do you think it rewards a second viewing? As someone who has seen it several times?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's the quotability that makes it worth watching again and again, and like when you know things are coming, it gets funnier.
Yeah, I think I'd agree. I think there's so much small content, background stuff, people's reactions that is always going on that you just don't pick up when you're watching it that first time.
Mm-hmm.
And the interplay is so quick at times. They are just riffing off each other in every scene.
It feels like a fun movie to make. Like
Mm.
it feels like they had a lot of fun on set.
Oh yeah, I don't know how they did this without breaking.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did read something. One of the reviews, I think, said that the best moments of the film were all moments very in the style of each of the actors. So it comes across like it's all ad-libbed rather than in the script. So I don't know how much that is true or not, but I can absolutely see it that they were just told to film and go with their characters.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the worst stuff, some of the bits that sort of stand out a bit, are the sorts of things you would script, the Wonder Woman fight and so on.
Ugh. That's how I felt about that scene.
Yeah, I didn't love that scene either.
But there are a couple of actors that we didn't mention. So this almost has the sort of trifecta of greatness for shows we love. It's got an actor from the Buffy movie, it's got an actor from The West Wing, and it's got an actor from Star Trek in it. That does not often happen.
Who does it have from Buffy?
Paul Rubens. Who was
he was in the movie. Right.
Oh, that's hilarious. Because when I saw that you put Buffy in there, I was like, who was in this that was also in Buffy? And one of the Susies was in the episode Beer Bad.
Oh, really?
Yes. So that's what I thought you were talking about. And I was like, wow, that's such a stretch. How did he find that?
How did you find that?
I Googled Mystery Men and Buffy the Vampire Slayer and got the IMDb came up for it. And I was like, oh, okay. And I completely forgot that Paul Rubens was in the movie.
I assumed you meant Doug Jones. Because Doug Jones, who plays one of the gentlemen and is in Star Trek as well, is Pencilhead.
Hi, I am Pencilhead.
And I am son of Pencilhead.
We erase crime.
2 generations of...
Right.
Yes, thank you.
I do it right?
Yeah, I think I like it.
In that random superhero scene.
Wow. Okay.
I'd
so
forgotten
many.
he was a gentleman, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Who is the West Wing?
And Janine Gruffalo's in like most of season 7. She is one of Santos's
yes.
people.
I remember. It's been a while. Okay.
Yeah, that's my main experience of her, but I watched this and then obviously saw The West Wing a few years later. Like, oh, that's the bowler. Cool.
I really enjoyed the Dane Cook cameo, personally.
All right, state your name and power.
I am the Waffler. With my griddle of justice, I bash the enemy in the head, or I burn them like so.
Oh, don't do that.
I also have my truth syrup, which is low fat. And I've been working on a theme song, kind of a Waffle Man! I am the Waffler! Golden crispy! Bad guys are history! Yeah!
The Waffler.
And that's a scene that we have then seen taken. I mean, Deadpool 2 basically does half of the plot of this.
Yes.
Which is solid.
Yeah, Deadpool is almost a parody superhero movie as well.
Yeah,
I guess I didn't think of that.
Much more in a kind of post-superhero, evolving the genre. But yeah, this does half of the same commentary and half of the same plot. Like, let's see how many silly superheroes we can find. The answer is a lot.
And they did both have an invisible person.
True. Absolutely true.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The film is really good fun. There is a lot good in this film. There's a lot that it gets right, but yet it was not popular, certainly commercially. And it has not gone down as one that people talk about as a must-see film, as we've already touched on. Do we have any theories on why?
I think that just wasn't ready in 1999, honestly, because superheroes weren't huge yet at that point. I think if this movie came out now, I think it would be fantastic and like ridiculously popular.
Okay.
But I think coming out when people weren't really thinking about superheroes as being mainstream, and then you kind of turn around and spoof it, like people just don't understand what you're trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it is 100%. It's ahead of its time. And I mean, I'm not going to lie that it's like the greatest movie of all time. It has its flaws and stuff. Mm-hmm. But I think a major thing that made it not popular is this, like, it was spoofing something that didn't exist yet.
Right.
It wasn't until, it was almost a decade later that Iron Man came out.
Mm.
Yeah, it's weird because the cast of this is so phenomenal. You would think that would be enough to get people to go see it. But superhero stuff just wasn't popular in 1999. And so I wish that this had kind of started that superhero renaissance, but it clearly didn't.
Yeah, is it... have either of you ever seen Batman and Robin?
Yes.
No.
Okay. I have not seen it. Because everyone says it's one of the worst films, yeah.
It is the worst.
Yeah. So, like, knowing that, I wouldn't put myself through it, but from what I have seen of it, and from what I know of it, this film is not too dissimilar in quite how comic booky it is. So I'm wondering if it's almost the fact that something like X-Men and then Spider-Man and then Batman Begins was so successful was because they stopped being comic booky, purple explosions and bright colours, and started being a lot more naturalistic and grounded. Maybe it was that fatigue rather than not ready, perhaps?
Yeah, because this came out after Batman and Robin, right?
Yeah. A couple of years, I think.
Between Batman and Robin and X-Men, I think?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't really think about Batman and Robin because, people would have not liked that movie, and so this movie might have had some badness reflected on it because of that.
Yeah, especially with the similarities and just, like, visually. Because, of the colors and the aesthetic and kind of the way it's filmed, I think I haven't seen Batman and Robin, but I read some people talking about it, and I've seen, like, stills from the movie. So maybe it was just too similar.
Yeah, I have seen a sequence in there, I think Bane's in it, and it's just so... It's almost like the Adam West Batman. It's got that kind of vibe going on.
Mm-hmm. For my opinion, it has the worst Batgirl ever. It was the first time Batgirl was ever on big screen, and they screwed it up really badly, and I really love Batgirl. So it just makes me mad.
Oh, yeah, because isn't she now Pennyworth's niece?
Yeah, she's Alfred's niece. She's played by Alicia Silverstone, and it's really bad.
Oh.
I forgot she did one of those movies.
But all like the constant punning and the very diabolical villains, that's what makes me think of the two films as similar.
Yeah.
So I was really excited when this came out. I have no idea how I found out about it, but I remember reading about it before it came out and visiting the film website. So this is back in the day, we all had dial-up, maybe just about transitioning to broadband. And this was a great film website because it had the usual trailers that you could download really slowly, posters, stills, and then it had like quotes you could download, like WAV files of individual lines from it. And there was some all the way through it. I'm like, oh, that was one of the files I downloaded. Oh, that was one of the files I downloaded. So there's random lines that I've heard over and over again. So when it finally came out, I was really excited and really hyped for this film. So I arranged loads of my friends, like 6-10 of us, something like that, to go and see this film all together one evening. And I've never been allowed to forget this.
Oh no!
And to this day, they talk about this as one of the worst films I've made them sit through. So I thought this, and this is why I feel like, hey, I can't even recommend this to anyone because this is clearly a bad film and I'm wrong and bad and don't know films. So I was amazed to hear someone else recommending it. So I reached out to them. I thought, this is the time to get their feedback. My friend Sai, who I've mentioned before, Sai and I are very close, but into very different sorts of films. He said that it was watchable, and he thinks you need to be a big comic fan to get the jokes. Which may or may not be true, but he is absolutely not a comic fan. So that's fair. Chris, who is the one who definitely hated it, loathed this film. He said this film is mad with a capital B. It's an interesting premise that some superhero powers might be more mundane than others. It proves only that some superhero films are more inane than others.
So have either of these folks gone back and rewatched it since then?
Oh, I wouldn't even try recommending that.
Because I wonder if they would have a different opinion now that we've gone through this whole superhero era.
Maybe. I think it is such a genre film. If you don't like comic book films, you're never going to like this.
Oh, that's true.
And I think it is also, there's aspects of it where, it's got a great big budget and the effects aren't bad and some of the stuff it's doing is interesting, but also it's a bit cheap in places. So I think it never quite either fulfills what it's trying to do or overdoes it. And it's like, okay, is this supposed to be a big spectacle blockbuster or is it supposed to be a bit kind of cheap? Did half the budget go on the cast? Is that what we're saying?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think like all the bad parts just verge into so bad it's good territory. That's why I love it. There might be some really cheesy and really stupid humor parts, but it's because they're so bad that they're good again.
Yeah, that is exactly how I described this movie when Joseph asked me about it later. I think we were sitting there or something was on the screen. I don't even remember what scene it was. And he goes, it's just so bad. And he's laughing. And I said, yeah, it's so bad it's good. And he agreed with me. Mm-hmm. So I think that is the perfect way to describe it.
I think the good stuff certainly wins me over enough to go, yeah, I will be in for whatever this film does, even if it has a superhero who farts at everyone.
Yeah.
The good bits outweigh the bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be on board for those stupid humor parts. You just have to be like, just go with it when he's doing the fart thing.
The spleen.
The spleen.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a question. This was in my head the whole time I was watching this. Do we think that this movie might have inspired Joss Whedon when he was working on Dr. Horrible?
Maybe. Like, it definitely has a Dr. Horrible similarity to it.
Yeah, I was thinking just because you've got like these weird superpowers that aren't normal superhero, you know, and so I saw similarities between Captain Amazing and Captain Hammer.
Mm-hmm.
And then just having the hero be kind of an underdog. Dr. Horrible has never really been successful at being a villain, even though he tries really, really hard. And I mean, the Shoveler has never been successful at being a hero, even though he tries really, really hard. So they just felt very similar in style or tone, maybe.
Yeah, I definitely think Moist would not be out of place in this.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And even like the whole part where Captain Amazing can't pronounce nemesises.
We know each other so well, don't we, Lance?
Well, we've always been each other's greatest nemesises. Nemesis. What's the plural on that?
Nemesis.
Whatever.
And that's later on. That's in Buffy.
Yeah,
like that's in Buffy season 6. So I'm like, I wonder if that's a coincidence or an homage or what.
I don't think he ever did a rewrite on this, but
Oh,
I never thought about that.
Yeah,
he could have been involved in it.
Yeah, you can definitely see him seeing this at some point and thinking, "Hey, that would be fun. What about that kind of world?"
Mm-hmm.
And talking of Captain Amazing, the idea of having a superhero with sponsors feels absolutely legit to the real world. Like, that is what would happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was. I found the concept of Captain Amazing, to be depressing, honestly. Realistic, but depressing. You know, having the man who is supposed to be the hero, the one who keeps the city safe, suddenly only doing it because it gets him good PR, to the point where he wants to let a supervillain back out on the streets just so that he can, like, capture him again. Like, that is not what a hero does.
No, I don't think he's supposed to be a hero. I think he's basically the villain of the show, and our main mystery men it's the story of how they become heroes,
right?
And how the hero becomes a villain.
I think that that's not what I was expecting. I think I expected, once I realized what the movie was going to be about, I somehow expected them to save Captain Amazing and have him realize, you know, that he had gone astray from the whole superhero thing, and then they would all have a happily ever after. But then Captain Amazing dies halfway through. I was like, wait, what? What just happened?
I think that is literally what sells me on this movie.
Yep.
Is Captain Amazing's death is so out of left field and nothing at all what you expect.
Yeah.
That it just, you're like, how did, like, you do not call that at all, seeing this movie, that he's gonna, that they're gonna fry him. And And that he's kind of evil right at that moment, too. He's being a real big jerk to them as they're trying to help him. And so it feels a little like he deserves it.
Okay, you know what? Can we just start again? Is there some sort of reset button on this thing?
No, you little freak. There's no button for resetting.
Flip the switch, lady. Don't stare at me. Lift your left arm. Flip it, you moron! Whoa. You're a moron! You're a moron!
Oh,
flip the switch, flip it!
That's not cool.
Thank you.
I will do it. Flip the switch, lady! Don't look at me like that.
It's this one, yeah?
Uh-oh. Wrong switch.
Everybody heard me say reset button, right?
Oh my god. Oh my god, we killed him.
What do you mean, we? I was right here.
And yet, not really.
Right. I mean, nobody deserves to die quite like that, but
No.
he was definitely not endearing to anyone.
Nope.
But yeah, I think it was so out of left field that I did not see it coming. And it was not at all the movie that I expected it to be, which I think made me love it even more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we were talking about the cast of this movie and how it has basically everybody in it. And I read an article that was talking about how the star of the film later trashed it and said nobody should ever watch it and it shouldn't have been made. And then I found out that he was talking specifically about Ben Stiller. And I found it odd that he labeled Ben Stiller as the star, like the lead of the movie. And I wanted to see what you guys thought of that. Is he who you thought was the lead?
I think it's who the movie thinks is the lead, but I think it's too much of an ensemble for it to actually be him.
Okay. Yeah. So, well, my first thought was, wow, I can't believe William H. Macy would say something like that. And then I was like, well, no, it really is an ensemble. Nobody really sticks out. But if I had to pick one, it would have been the shoveler.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, his story is much more interesting, much different than we see for other things.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the film, exactly like you say, Jan, it thinks Ben Stiller is the person that we're following. But it's very hard to care about him.
Yes.
Yeah, I think because he gets the girl at the end, that's why he's the main character.
Well, that's just stupid.
Yeah.
I agree.
Whereas the resolution, certainly the emotional resolution for William H. Macy is so good. Where the family is legitimately proud of him. It's a great moment. So well delivered.
Yeah. I spent most of the movie thinking that Ben Stiller didn't actually have powers. Like, his power was saying he was getting really angry.
Yeah, I don't think he has powers.
Ooh, yeah, discuss.
Well, but then, the shoveler sticks up for him and says that one time he was so, rage-induced, he picked up a school bus. And so I don't know if he actually saw that or if, Ben Stiller said he did that, and so he's just taking him at his word.
Oh, but he says...
What are you talking about? You lifted a box once. Precisely. That story's legendary.
It was really more of a push, really, than a lift.
Well, that still takes incredible superhuman strength. Indeed, it does to push an entire bus out the way.
Well, actually, the driver kind of had his foot on the accelerator just in the beginning, just to get it going. Then it actually was me, but he kind of...
Well, he was pushing it. It wasn't so much a lift as a push.
Oh, I missed
So he didn't
that.
actually do it. No, I think he doesn't have any powers. I think that's part of the whole joke. Is he keeps saying he's going to be furious, and then it never actually manifests because he doesn't actually have powers. He just thinks he's really angry.
So at the end, when he's trying to save the girl, do you think that he was just being a normal, angry person when he's trying to fight Casanova Frankenstein? What kind of name is that anyway?
The best name.
So was he just normal punching him, or was he rage Mr. Furious punching him?
I think he was just normal punching him.
Okay.
I think he literally has no powers.
Yeah. I think
that's my theory.
Maybe he's strong. Maybe the thing, not strength, super strength. But maybe he works out when he believes and actually gets his finesse together. He can be a good fighter, but that's as far as it would go.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm just saying I wouldn't have been able to climb a wall of forks.
Yeah, but does it take actual super strength to climb a wall of forks? The Blue Raja has powers. He puts those forks in the wall really hard.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
And he does spend his day junking stuff, so I think there's almost, it's implied he is
true.
very physically fit.
Okay.
Junk
yeah.
it.
That's fair. Junk it.
Junk it. Okay, I think we are now getting into gushing about this film. Jan, I absolutely want you to go first, because I'm sure there was a lot of this film that you probably know off the top of your head really well.
Absolutely.
Go on.
Well, every time Janine Garofalo is on the screen, she's my favorite in this. She's so funny, and like her deadpan humor just cracks me up every time. All of her conversations with her dad in the in the bowling ball.
Sorry, but am I to understand you've inserted your father's skull inside of that ball for bowling?
No. Got the pro shop did it.
And then when she finally avenges his death, she's like,
Okay, now I'm going back to graduate school. That was the agreement.
everything out of her mouth is just hilarious.
Yeah. And her reactions to the spleen are really good and well earned.
Yes.
But her physical comedy's excellent. The way she catches it and is always like on one foot having to balance, and even at the end when she's posing and smiling and so on, there's a lot of physical comedy going on that I think is overlooked with her sort of sharp wit.
Yeah,
but it absolutely adds to the character really nicely. Yeah, she could support the whole film.
Yeah. I feel like she should be the main character.
I just want her hair. I like those green stripes.
I was convinced they were changing colour at one point. I'm sure they're not green to start with.
No, they were green to start
Well,
with.
okay.
Because it's the first thing I noticed about her.
And the massive eyeliner. It's a great look. Yeah. She's fun.
I mean, all of their relationships outside with each other, and then outside of each other, like with the Blue Raja and his mother, and with the shoveler and his wife, they're just really fun to watch. That extra element of them outside of their little superhero thing, and how much they're either supported or not supported. And I really love the shoveler's wife and how she kind of wants to support him, but like he's just a shoveler.
Right. And it's been 12 years.
It's been 12 years.
How long are you gonna do this, Eddie? It's been 12 years.
I know.
You got a family to look after, Eddie. The kids are worried sick about you. But still, you go out night after night, running around the city for what?
Lucille, God gave me a gift. I shovel well. I shovel very well.
Oh, baby. You shovel better than any man I've ever known. But that does not make you a superhero.
That I think is the problematic line. If this was, you've been doing this a year, I'd buy it. But 12 years and there's still this rubbish?
Yeah.
I feel like if the bit at the beginning with the red eyes was a bit more of a score draw, rather than they are just absolutely terrible at this. Maybe that's the thing that doesn't hold together. Anyway, I quite like Invisible Boy when they go to see him and he's like, Dad, I'm going into my room with these three strange men. Even that, you've got this like family member who's like, oh, all right.
All right. And the line about,
Maybe you should put some shorts on or something if you want to keep fighting evil today.
This is something I feel like we say on a weekly basis. Because, like, anytime, like, our kids aren't wearing pants or whatever, we say that line to them.
That's fantastic.
That is a wonderful, wonderful line. So what else?
And about the part with the toggles, where they're trying to figure out how many times to flip the toggles, and then it ends up killing Captain Amazing. And Mr. Furious just says, for some reason, how many toggles in Toto?
Captain, exactly how many toggle flips in Toto are involved in this entire procedure?
Instead of in total, and toggles Toto.
I was just wondering how many times they could say the word toggle.
That too, yeah.
Yeah, because also toggle is such a strange word to use. Everyone else, it's a lever or a switch or toggle. What is a toggle?
Yeah, toggle to me is a verb, not a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But okay. Like, I would toggle the switch. But maybe I use that word incorrectly. I don't know. I don't know.
It's where it comes to the it's so bad it's good thing is like the repeating the same word over and over until it's funny again.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's definitely my kind of humor.
Yeah.
And Captain Amazing just getting more and more annoyed at them for not understanding what he thinks is really obvious, but it is also, he's saying it really weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super not obvious. All right, Matthew, what about you?
I have a couple of things. There was a bit where they're walking out of the bar, and the bowler is telling this story about saying sabotage or sabotage.
I say sabotage. Sabotage.
And it's such a deep-cut random thing about William Shatner that you hear every so often reference this whole thing that he was recording dialogue for a video game, I think. And he was saying, they've come on to sabotage the Enterprise. And someone gives him feedback like, you need to say it sabotage, and ends up saying, you say sabotage, I say sabotage.
Spock, sabotage the system.
Okay, can we have line 193 again with sabotage and sabotage?
I don't say sabotage. You say sabotage. I say sabotage.
And it's just background dialogue that the bowler is telling as they come out and get interrupted by the disco guys.
Oh, that's funny.
It's so good. I have to call out Eddie Izzard because this might be one of the reasons I also love this film. At the time, I was the biggest Eddie Izzard fan you could find. He'd had a couple of shows in the years building up to this, Definite Article and Dress to Kill, that I could do off the VHS tapes word for word. I had his mannerisms, I had some of his phrases just as in my normal day-to-day language. And in this, he's just wonderful with this crazy broad American accent.
You can't hurt me, baby bowler. 'Cause I'm protected by the god of haircut. And it's time to send you back to your daddy.
You killed my father.
That's right, 'cause I'm a killer. And you're not.
I'm protected by the god of hair care. and the amount they buy into disco is life. And we must do disco things every single time. Even when Casanova Frankenstein goes,
Quickly, everybody, into the disco room!
And breaks into the Saturday Night Fever pose.
Yes, that was wonderful.
That was wonderful.
Like, why do you have villains who are so into disco, and why does it work so much?
Why do you have a villain named Casanova Frankenstein?
Because why wouldn't you?
There's no rhyme or reason. It just is.
I feel like this movie was maybe just like a Mad Lib. In the writer's room, they're just like, okay, throw me a noun, throw me a name, throw me a Casanova Frankenstein. Sure, let's go with that.
Throw me a type of music he's going to be into.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, no, honestly, though, the disco makes sense because that was what was in style when he went into the asylum.
Yeah.
Because he'd been there for 20 years.
True.
But it doesn't make sense that his minions would still be so into it. I mean, I guess they just kept everything exactly the same for him until he got out.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also like that they have the guns and they are mocked for having guns. Like, that's not a very good superhero power.
Yeah.
It's not very on theme. At least you could have a gold chain with no chain.
But it's very much like the Dr. Horrible and not Dr. Evil and Scott Evil thing. Him like, no, don't kill him with like laser sharks. I'll go and get a gun. We'll shoot him together. It'll be fun. It's the same thing. Like, if you're going to be evil, just get a gun.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually do it in this. And then, for whatever reason, the guns get cut in half.
Well, because that was the Sphinx's power.
But he never uses it again. It's never explained what or how he does it. Just that one moment. They have a bit of setup, and then they deliver, and then we ignore that power.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just so that we would know that when that happened, oh my gosh, the Sphinx is here.
Yeah.
What's his power?
Well, he's terribly mysterious.
That's it? That's his power? He's mysterious?
well, terribly mysterious.
Terribly mysterious.
But no, I love Eddie Izzard in this. I think he's wonderful, silly, bombastic. It's a shame he never got many more films in Hollywood.
Absolutely. I didn't think I recognized him until I watched it this time. I wasn't familiar at all with him until much more recently. And same with some of the other people in the movie, like CeeLo Green is in it.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah.
Really?
Like the rap group is CeeLo Green's group. I don't remember what they're called. So there's so many like weird cameos and famous people in this movie, and yet it just bombed so bad.
But they tried really hard.
I recognize Michael Bay as one of the frat boys.
Oh.
Was he?
Yeah, he's the one who asked to take the beer, and I'm like...
What about Captain Amazing?
That is an excellent question, Big Tobacco. What are we going to do about the greatest superheroes that Champion City has ever known, For the answer, I want you all to walk this way.
Dude, can we bring the brewskis?
Yes, of course, you may absolutely bring the brewskis.
Wait, that's Michael Bay. Mandy, last one up. What are your favourite things from this film?
Oh, my very, very favorite thing in the whole world in this film was when Furious is saying that he believes that Lance is Captain Amazing. And the shoveler's just like, no, we've been through this. Lance Hunt wears glasses. Captain Amazing does not.
That's because Lance Hunt is Captain Amazing.
Oh, don't start that again. Lance Hunt wears glasses. Captain Amazing doesn't wear glasses.
He takes them off when he transforms.
That doesn't make any sense. He wouldn't be able to see.
It's so good.
It's just like, oh my God, this is the best parody of that Superman thing that I have ever seen.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I was cracking up at that one. And then like they kept it going, like whenever they were getting ready to rescue him and the shoveler is just standing off to the side. He's not doing anything. Everybody else is running around trying to save him. And he's holding up these 2 discs to his face to see, is this Lance or is it not? And he just keeps looking at him, and it's wonderfully done.
I love it. It's such a clever parody of Superman.
Yeah, it really is. And then, Captain Amazing's like, well, yeah, I am him. And everybody's like stops for a second. And then he starts laughing. I'm just kidding. I'm just like, what? What just happened here? Oh, it was great. Yeah. I loved the back and forth with the bowler and usually Mr. Furious with, well, why don't you tell me? No, you tell me. Why don't you tell me? No, you tell me. And it just went on and on and on, like so many times.
So now Daddy's little girl's all grown up, looking for a little revenge. Is that it?
Yeah, that is it. Is there a problem with that?
Why don't you tell me?
I don't know. You tell me.
Why don't you tell me?
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 It was fantastic. I don't
That's
know
definitely
how
that's
they
definitely
did
a
break.
bit that my husband and I do.
Yeah. And then the Blue Raja's mom at the end when she's watching him on TV and she's just so proud of him. That is a wonderful little moment.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, if they'd made them the core, and maybe even Mr. Furious about realizing he has no powers, and then just him being himself a bit more, but they then go back into he has powers. But yeah, Blue Raja and the Shoveler.
I did also really like all of the Sphinx's lines.
Had you spotted that he was doing, to pull something up, you need to push it down?
I don't think I noticed every time, but I did. I specifically noticed the teaching one. In order for me to teach you, I first have to, or in order for you to learn from me, I have to teach you how to learn, or something like that. And everybody was like, whoa. And I was like, okay, he's just spouting nonsense. But it sounded like really good nonsense.
I would have loved to have been there that day when they were writing it and just coming up with, okay, so if you balance attack hammer, you have a balanced attack? What do we think about that, guys? Is that something?
Oh, yeah. Speaking of kind of punny things.
I say sabotage. Sabotage.
The shoveler is hammered.
Which isn't even a pun, but...
No,
like, but the way they deliver it, as though it's like, this is really clever.
Yeah. I think they thought all of the dialogue was really super clever, which makes it fun because it was delivered so well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was fun.
And then even beyond the ensemble, the superpowers are good. The fact he does turn invisible when no one's looking and he doesn't look at himself, legitimately, it's only useful in that situation that they contrived to set up. But it works.
Okay, but why does turning invisible make your clothes fall off?
Because his clothes don't turn invisible, so...
But he didn't turn, like... he was still solid, right? I mean, he didn't disappear because he was able to push the button.
Maybe he becomes some kind of incorporeal mist.
Yeah. Okay.
That's my theory.
All right.
Maybe
I'm just overthinking it.
Patrick Swayze comes along, teaches him how to press things.
Fair enough. All right. If you just believe real hard, you can do this.
Yep.
So when he actually turned invisible, I was like clapping and laughing. I was so delighted.
It's great, isn't it?
It is. Because you expect, I mean, they're setting it up for him to not have powers. And so that's what you're expecting. Like, he's just going to help with however he helps. You know, he's just a teenager, whatever. And then he's really invisible.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since so many of the powers, like, I mean, we don't see Captain Amazing have powers. He's just got a suit. We don't see Mr. Furious do anything. You know, the shoveler, he twirls a shovel sometimes, but we haven't actually seen him do anything. And so you're not really expecting, like, somebody to turn invisible. And then he did. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
And we keep mentioning his name, but Casanova Frankenstein is a very well done villain. Because he's very villainous, and he fights with claws in his little fingers. To the extent you know they made a giant little finger to go under the camera for the fight scene at the end.
Yeah.
But Jeffrey Rush, it's good that they got a proper actor to come and do that, because he just buys into it so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you can be the brewskis. It's so random, but it works.
All right, we have been gushing for a little while, but is there anything else that we need to talk about with Mystery Men?
Well, I feel like, despite how much, like, I love this movie, I'm used to taking things way too seriously sometimes.
No, not you.
Not me, not my podcast. So I really noticed this time around watching it that, like, its treatment of women is really bad. This movie has, like, what we call the Smurfette principle. So that's, like, the one woman in the superhero group, which is pretty standard for superhero groups, but I really hate.
Her skill is that she's the woman.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's the stupid, like, two Wonder Women fighting, the PMS Avenger, and then Claire Forlani, I can't even remember her character's name. Monica. She has absolutely no actual character traits besides being a love interest for Mr. Furious.
Yeah, she starts off seeming like she might be interesting with a bit of, like, not caring, being a bit apart from the world, having her own thing going on, but it never delivers. Yeah. She almost ends up more blank because of that.
And then she's captured by Casanova Frankenstein for reasons, I guess, to give him motivation.
Literally damseled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and they shrink the clothing. They have, like, the clothing shrink ray, and of course they use it on all the hot women, and so all their clothing shrinks up, and, like, that was just bad. I didn't like that at all.
Yeah, agreed. And there's no reason any of the mystery men could have been women.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, all of them, even Mr. Furious, but they just weren't.
They just weren't. Yeah. Just went with kind of the standard one woman in the group. That's it.
That represents.
But they didn't dress her in your standard female superhero wardrobe.
That is true. She is an awesome representation of women. Like,
Yes.
I love Janine Garofalo in this. It's fantastic. Everything about her.
Yeah, it just wasn't enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I pity the person who tries to suggest a boob window to Janine Garofalo.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, that is a shame. Would you? How would you rate this on your scale? As good, not good, seriously good?
Well, actually, I was watching it with Paul, my husband and podcast partner, and we were saying, like, this is a really good movie, but it's seriously bad.
Okay.
In terms of, like, the politics of it and the social justice, it's pretty bad. But it's such a good movie that we don't care.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely one that I think I would watch again. I'm not sure that there are going to be many times where I'm like, I really want to watch Mystery Men. But I think if somebody else suggested it, I'd be like, yeah, that's good. Or if I saw it on TV, I would absolutely stop and watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
A good comedy does go a long way. And there is definitely good comedy in here.
Yes. All right. Well, if you would like to join the conversation, you can use the hashtag PCDeprived on Twitter. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Eloquent Gushing. You can email us at podcast@eloquentgushing.com, or you can leave us a voice message at speakpipe.com/eloquentgushing. We're also on Twitter. I'm at Mandy K.
And I'm at Matthew Vose. Jan, thank you so much for joining us. It's been wonderful having you here, and thank you for recommending this film. I'm kind of delighted, as you can tell. Where are people able to find you and your podcasts?
Oh, thanks so much for inviting me onto your podcast. It's been awesome. And I'm so glad that I was able to, like, be someone else who loved this film, Matthew. You can find me on Twitter. My personal Twitter is JLMose. That's JAYELLEMO. Or my podcast, Way Too Seriously, you can find goodstuff.fm/WTS. Clockworks, our podcast about the TV show Legion, is also there on Good Stuff. So you can find either of those there.
Awesome. I think I do Way Too Seriously in the same way people do Pop Culture Deprived. As and when I watch a film you've covered, the first thing I do is go and listen to it. So I would watch the two Paddington films last week. Over the weekend, listen to your episodes about them.
Nice. We've got one about Teen Titans Go coming out soon.
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
hear that one.
I loved that. That was so much fun. There were 5 of us in the cinema to see that. So I'm not surprised no one's heard of it. And admittedly, it was me, my wife, and my nephew were 3 of the 5, so...
Oh. All right.
Cool. What else have you got coming up?
We have... That is an excellent question. We just released one on The Greatest Showman. And we've also got one on the movie Holes.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Do you not like that one?
The first time I watched it, I hated it. I've seen bits and pieces since then, and it's been more, like, tolerable. We'll see.
We read the book together as a family, so now we're watching it.
Okay. Yeah. I did read the book, and I think I enjoyed the book more than the movie, and that's probably where my issues came from. But
yeah, fair enough.
I have your episode on, or I plan to listen to The Greatest Showman as soon as I can. I just am way super far behind on everything.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm hoping that people like parts of it as much as I did. Hoping.
I liked it. Paul did not.
Okay, that's fair. All right.
He's a bit of a snob when it comes to musicals. Like we both love musicals, but he is a little more snobby about them.
Okay.
So, yeah. There was that.
Well, it was weird for a musical.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Awesome.
Cool.
It will be fun to find out.
Mm-hmm.
Pop Culture Deprived is 100% funded by listeners like you through our Patreon page. Anything you can give, even $1 a month, gives access to exclusive content and helps to support the network. To find out more, visit patreon.com/eloquentgushing. And don't forget to visit the homepage, eloquentgushing.com, to catch our other shows and subscribe to our weekly newsletter with updates about what's coming out.
And we will be back next week with another episode of Pop Culturally Deprived, where we'll talk about Star Trek 3. Until next time, I'm Mandy K.
And we are number 1. All others are number 2 or lower. Pop Culturally Deprived is an Eloquent Gushing production. For more information, go to eloquentgushing.com or find us on Twitter @eloquentgushing.